Hi everyone, so we are back with another Excel Extreme video, and this time around we are taking on a scorecard. And this scorecard I believe is for a transport company and measuring their KPIs, their monthly KPIs, and it has really cool interesting elements. So we have 9 KPIs being measured here, and for each KPI there's the month's performance, there's the variance, there's the past trend, and there's the variance from the target trend. And we have those thumbs up, red and green icons, thumbs up and thumbs down, indicating whether the performance for the month was on target or did not meet the target. So for my recreation, I'm only going to be focusing on 6 KPIs. It's going to be a dynamic scorecard. This one does not look like it's dynamic, but I'm going to add an interactive layer element to enable the user flip through past months, flip the view by month essentially. And the visual elements on each panel are the headers, the KPI values, the thumbs up and down, that's the visual marker of performance against targets, the variance against targets, the slim bar chart, the bar chart showing monthly variance from targets, and the line chart of monthly performance. So let's get started. So to start things up, I'm hiding the grid lines as usual, and I'm just going to take a snapshot of the original scorecard so I know where all the visual elements go. and now I'm going on ahead to put the header, the overall header for the dashboard, and then I'm creating text placeholders for the different text elements that are on this scorecard. So there are a lot, if you really look at the original scorecard, there are a lot of text elements, if you will. The score for the month, the value for the month, the variance, those are text elements, and then just building that out. And also creating a 3-column layout, if you will, because all the elements, visual elements, are kind of ordered along 3 columns. The first column is the one that shows the performance for the month, the thumbs up or thumbs down icon, and the variance. And then the second column shows the bar chart, and then the third column shows the line chart. So I have created those 3 headers: current month, variance from target trend, and past trend for the 3 columns, quote and unquote, because they're not actually columns, but they're visually ordered as columns. So, and now I'm stepping in to create what will be the interactive, a drop down cell that will allow us to flip the numbers, the values that we're going to see on the scorecard by month. Now, since I have set up the text boxes, I just duplicate them, and I'm using them to create the placeholders for the value for the month. I've created the first one. I'm using the original text on the scorecard to create the placeholder. And like I normally do, I'm taking time to lay out the order of all the elements for the first panel, if you will. And once I have it all set out and they're in the right order, I will just go on to duplicate them for all the other panels, all the other KPI panels. I've put 2 placeholders there for the 2 charts, the bar charts and the line charts. And then I'm just really moving the text boxes around to get them in the right order. For the thumbs up and down icons, I know I have come across these icons in Microsoft Excel. So I go into Insert Symbol, and I'm on Sego UI symbol, and I'm scrolling all the way down. I know the thumbs up, Sego UI symbol has the thumbs up and down icons, and I want the icons to be text icons. So I went to specifically look for them, text icons instead of graphic icons. Graphic icons I can find anywhere, but I want this ones to be text icons. So I went to look for them, and I have put them in a text box in view that I can easily refer to. So now the layout is all set up, and I'm just duplicating. I just selected all the elements, grouped them, and I'm replicating them and putting them in the other KPI panels. Just reiterating the fact that even though the original view has 9 KPIs, I'm sticking to 6 KPIs because of the difference in the fact that this is a landscape layout and the original view is a portrait layout. And what I'm doing now is updating the KPI, the header placeholders the KPI header placeholders with the original KPI names from the original dashboard. Now over to the data tab. Like I always do, I'm creating randomized raw data, and I have indicated the columns that I'm going to need for this raw data. I'm going to need KPI, month, year, target, and actual. And then because this is a KPI dashboard, the numbers I'm going to use, I can't just randomize like I normally do. The numbers have to fall within a given range that are around the targets that have been set for the KPIs. So I have noted the KPIs. That's why I'm switching back to the original scorecard to see what those target numbers are, and I have put those target numbers in. And for the range, I'm deriving the maximum and minimum range for each KPI, and for that I'm just using a difference of +5, -5, or 50 basis points for the percentage KPIs. So on to the raw data. I'm basically filling the text like I normally do, duplicating. We know that we need data for, I know that I'm going to need data for 2 years, so I have filled in the month and year data for 24 records. 24 records representing 12 months of data across 2 years for each KPI. And I have brought in the target number based on what was in the original scorecard using the VLOOKUP. And what I'm doing now is to bring in the actual data. I'm doing a rand between function. Using a rand between function that takes the maximum and the minimum range and finds a random number in between them. And now what I'm doing is I'm creating a complex formula that I'll be able to drag down to the entire range that takes that identifies what KPI we're looking at, and then randomizes the data. I used a combination of indirect address and match, but in retrospect, a simple VLOOKUP would have done the work for me. So once I do all of that and the data is all set up, I copy and paste those values and I move on to the pivot tables. So the pivot tables, the way I'm setting up the pivot tables, I have 6 KPI panels, and each KPI panel has 2 graphs. So I am going to create 6 pivot tables, one for each KPI panel. And from the pivot tables, I'm going to derive the values that will be on both graphs. The first graph is the variance against target trend, and the second graph is the past trend. So I am setting up a derived table, if you will, which will be based on the pivot table. Why I still maintain the connection to the pivot table is because this is going to be an interactive dashboard that is going to have a slicer, and I want to be able to click on a new month and have all the numbers automatically update, and that is why I'm keeping this table, the table with the green fill color, connected to the pivot table. I am going to build the Microsoft Excel table from those derived tables, the ones with the green background. So each of them has the information on month, the actual value, and another column called marker, because why I'm creating a marker column is, if you notice in the original scorecard, the number, the chart point that represents the current month is darker in color than the other chart points. So I have created this marker column so that every time we have this slicer selected at a given month, that month's value will show up in the marker. And how that's going to work is the formula I'm setting up. And this formula is checking if the month is equals to the month selected, then pull in the actual number. If not, give us an NA error. And the thing about NA errors is that they don't show up on Excel charts. So what this chart is going to look like is going to show no values except the value of the month being selected, the month in view. And when I set it up, that's what it looks like. You can see it's just it's just the line, and then the marker from the marker column is what is reflecting. So my first chart is set up, and then I take it to the front end, and I place it in the place it's supposed to be. I set up the next column now, which is the variance column, and for the variance I'm simply computing the difference between the actual value and the target, and that is being charted on the bar chart. And you see the bar chart also has the variance, and you notice the variance is in orange color, and I'm just going to go in to change that color to gray, which is closer to the color on the original scorecard. And what I'm doing now is, since I have set up the formats for this chart, I'm going to save them as templates, because I know I'm going to need to refer to those templates for the other 5 KPI panels, so that I don't have to go through the same work of formatting the charts for each of the other 5 KPI panels. So what I'm doing now is, at the back end, just above those derived tables, I'm setting up a formula to reference the current month value, and that current month value is going to be linked to the text placeholder on the KPI, that's 69.0%, so that it updates every time the month updates. And what I just did now is I set up the data validation on the month column, so that you're able to drop down on that cell and select a different month, and then the values will update as expected. And I'm setting up the thumbs up and thumbs down icon, and how that is going to run is, if it detects the variance is a negative number, it will give us the thumbs down icon, and if it's a positive number, it will give us the thumbs up icon. And I'm using the sign function in Excel to detect whether it's a positive or a negative number. And when I set it up, it works just fine. And what I did is, that cell that was set up, I copied and pasted it as a linked picture. Why it's pasted as a linked picture is because I want it to always update every time the month changes. So I have set that up, and then I tested the month to be sure that it was working as expected. When I finished setting it up, the color of the icon changed, the thumbs up, thumbs down icon changed. From a solid fill, it became a no fill with a colored line, which is a bit different, which is different from what's in the original scorecard, but I think it still communicates the same message, so I didn't bother trying to tweak it. I just left it the way it was. And now I've moved the month drop down section on the scorecard to the extreme right. And I'm just testing it to ensure it's still working. So since I've set up the first KPI, I duplicated the pivot tables, and then I'm just going ahead. I went on ahead to change the filter on the KPI to update it to the relevant KPI. So while the initial one was bus on time performance, I've changed the others to bus fleet reliability, escalator reliability, elevator reliability, and the others. And I'm just copying and pasting those green derived tables. And because they are set up as simple references, it's really easy to update them. And now the pivot tables are set up. We go on to what we already know is the hard work of setting up this, doing this recreate videos, which is the linking of the back end data to the front end elements. And I have to link all the elements one after the other. I'm linking the icon, which is a linked picture now. I'm linking the variance number, and then I'm linking the month performance, which is the bold number. But since there's just 6 KPIs, it's not so much work. Well, it's essentially 6, linking 3 elements across 6 KPIs, which is linking this 18 times. Anyway, I already used to this type of work and the fact that it has to be done, because anytime I design this temp dashboards, I design them like their templates that will be used in future. So the beauty is, once you set it up and do the linking one time, the template is good to go, and you can, if you want to reuse it, you can just go to the back end and update the numbers, and then it will work just fine. And now I'm doing the copy and paste as link pictures for the different icons, and just aligning them to be sure that they look okay. Now I'm linking the month value performance, and as I link it, you notice that the format changes, but I just select all of them and then I restore the formats back. I increase the font size and change the font type to Sego UI, which is what I'm using for the dashboard. Now over to the charts. The chart is set up, and what I'm just going to do is before I go on to update the charts, I remember that for two of the KPIs, the variance is actually going to be a positive number. The positive number is a low performance. Those are the variance. The variance that are numbers, that's the crime rate and the injury rates. The variance are going to be positive numbers. So I switch the value so that it reads that when sign is 1, that is greater than the number, it shows a thumbs down, and when it is lower, it shows a thumbs up. And so I just do that one little tweak, and then I go on to duplicate the charts. And like I always do, as I duplicate the charts, I change the source value, the source data. I change the source data to ensure that it is reflecting the source data for that particular KPI. So for instance, I started with bus on time performance. Now I have duplicated the charts and I'm using those same charts for bus fleet reliability. So for each of the 2 charts in the bus fleet reliability panel, I go to select data and I change the charts so that they are referencing the green tables in front of bus fleet, the bus fleet reliability pivot table. And then I just do that 4 more times for each of the other 4 KPIs. And like as always happens, every time I change the source data, the format of the chart changes to the default Excel chart setting. So what I do is to change the chart template to the saved template from the bus on time performance charts. That approach saves time and prevents me from redoing all the hard work of chart formatting, which I've already done the first time. And it ensures all my charts look the same across the 6 different KPI panels. So now they're all set up, and I'm just tweaking the alignment. Now going in to change the chart type to the saved templates, and it's all set up, and I'm just checking with the month drop down to see that it updates when the month changes, and I'm just doing that test over there. And I don't know why the target line, I have to manually update the name on the target line, which is really weird, but I mean I just did that little manual workaround. And so I'm testing it out to be sure it works fine, and it works fine. And I just adjust some of the target names manually, and there you have it. It's all set up. And that's it. Thanks for watching.